Good day, YouTubers, and welcome to another episode. I took a day off work to go fishing last Friday. That didn't work out because I picked up the empty esky to take it out to the bait freezer to load it up, and my back didn't feel real good, so I decided I wouldn't go, which is just as well because within half an hour I was flat on my back on the floor, and I stayed there for 5 days until my back felt better. It's impossible to do any video editing from that position, so this is what I managed to do in the very short time I had available to me after I recovered. It's very short, but if you don't know about it, I think it's worthwhile knowledge. I've mentioned in previous videos that I like to have a look at a couple of different weather sources. I usually use 3 different weather sources, and I've explained that the reason for that is that I like to see if they match up. I use one from the Bureau of Meteorology and usually 2 that use data from the American GFS, Global Forecasting System. When I've mentioned it in the past, I haven't shown any really good comparisons, but here you can see on the screen there's 4 different forecasts. The 2 on the left-hand side are for one day, and the 2 on the right-hand side are for another day. The top forecasts are from the Australian Bureau of Meteorology data, and the bottom forecasts are from the American Global Forecasting System. The 2 on the left-hand side are in very close agreement. They only differ by a few knots through the day, so I would take that as being a fairly reliable forecast, and at a guess from all the times I go out, there may be one trip a year where I see a forecast like this and the weather's not quite what it should be. But the majority of the time when you see matching forecasts like this, you can pretty much rely on them. They tend to be far more reliable than just looking at one forecast and saying, yeah, that's going to be good. However, the 2 on the right hand side track along pretty good until midday, and then they really diverge. They don't just diverge on the strength of the wind, but they also diverge on the direction of the wind, and that makes it really hard to predict just where you need to go to find shelter. Usually one of them will be correct, but before it happens, you've no way of really knowing which one. Occasionally, when they're like this, you'll find the weather's somewhere halfway in between, but I haven't seen that very often either. Usually one or the other will be more correct. Just putting up the 2 that are in close agreement and swapping between them so you can see the minor differences. They pretty much agree in wind direction. That's a great thing because then you know where you need to go to find some good fishing in sheltered waters, and the wind strength is the same, so again I find that fairly reliable. This next set of images is from the Bureau of Meteorology and the American Global Forecasting System again, but this time they show the real-time data as well, so that you can compare the actual wind conditions that were measured against the ones that were forecast. This is a good illustration of the point I was mentioning before about one forecast being more correct than the other when they differ. In this case, the American Global Forecasting System is a clear winner. It nailed it pretty much exactly. The arrows are the forecast as you'd normally see. The purple line is the actual wind speed, and the lighter blue line with it is the wind gusts. As you can see, as we let the full day's data develop, the global forecasting system has absolutely nailed it this day. Everyone has a different tolerance to just how uncomfortable they're going to be on a boat and still fish, just from the wind and wave conditions. Just for the sake of argument, let's say we've decided that 10 knots is as much as we want to fish. If you look at the Bureau of Meteorology data, you could say, well, if I go out there any time after midnight, I can stay out there till about 9 o'clock. As long as I'm back at the ramp by 10 o'clock, it'll be fine. So I've got this little window of opportunity that morning. I can go out and fish. So I could get out there at first light and fish till 10 o'clock, have those few hours on the water, and what a great day, you'd think. Looking at the American Global Forecasting System, it says the wind is going to drop around about 1 o'clock-ish in the morning, 1:30. The reality was a little bit later than that, but if we're planning to hit the water about 4 o'clock in the morning, we wouldn't notice that. What we would notice, however, is that by the time we got out to our fishing spot, got our bait ready, dropped our lines in, the wind was starting to come up. It came up fairly rapidly, and by about 5 o'clock it was over 15 knots. well outside our supposed 10 knot comfort zone. When you're looking at two forecasts and they disagree, you've got to decide just how strongly they disagree and whether you're going to risk it. In general, if they disagree by large amounts, I decide not to go. I miss out on some good days that way, but I get far fewer bad days, and that suits me just fine. Now, when I was younger, good day, bad day, I didn't care. As long as I was out fishing, didn't matter. These days I like my comfort just a little bit more. In case you're wondering, the app that I'm looking at in this particular instance is Fish Ranger. You have to pay for the subscription to Fish Ranger on an annual basis. It's not very dear, and it does give you some really good weather forecasting. I'm not affiliated with them, so I have no barrow to push there. I just like the application and the fact that it gives you side by side the global weather forecasting information and the Bureau of Meteorology information. And that's it. Thank you for taking the time to watch the video. I hope you got something out of it, and I hope it helps you to make some better decisions about what days to go out on the water. If you did, please click that like button. It does help the channel. Until next time, good fishing.